What's up, everybody? Welcome into the Next Pats podcast. I'm Phil Perry. We've got a tremendous episode for you this week because we are focused on the trenches. Of course we are, after the Patriots rushed for 170 yards in their Week 1 win over the Cincinnati Bengals. Ramondre Stevenson had 120 yards himself, 118 yards after contact, almost 5 yards per carry. Tremendous day for him. But I thought an excellent day for the offensive line in the run game specifically. Pass game, plenty to clean up there. Jacoby Brissett was under pressure on over 40% of his dropbacks, and if they don't clean things up in practice this week, it could near 50% in terms of the pressure rate for Brissett in Week 2 against a Seattle pass rush that, to me, is more talented than what the Patriots saw in Week 1. But before we talk about that, and we are going to talk about Patriots-Seahawks matchups and the blueprint to the Patriots winning their second game and somehow completely unexpectedly starting their season 2-0. But before we do that, again, we have to focus on the trenches, and we have to focus on the person who was inarguably, I say, the most impressive Patriots rookie in Week 1, and that was Layden Robinson, starting right guard. This man was pancaking people on a regular basis. And the fact that they were able to rush as productively as they were was, of course, due in large part to their two best offensive linemen, David Andrews and Mike Onwenu. I thought both those players had excellent days. But Layden Robinson, right there with them, did not look out of place at all. 4th-round pick, started the summer and spent the vast majority of the summer with the backups in New England. He was the backup right guard, at times playing left guard. Really a right guard only in college. And when they drafted him in the 4th round, Jim Nagy, the Senior Bowl, where Layden Robinson went prior to the draft, was telling us, if you draft a guard-only prospect in the 4th round, you think he can start and start soon. Because typically, your interior line guys, if they're going to be backups, they better know how to snap the football. And Robinson really didn't do that this summer, outside of maybe a couple of reps before or after practice. And so when he wasn't starting, it was a bit of a head-scratcher. But they had Mike Onwenu playing guard because they were trying Chuks Okorafor and Vidarian Lowe at tackle. They were trying Caden Wallace at tackle at times, and it seemed clear they preferred Mike Onwenu to play the spot where he's most comfortable and where he might be an all-pro talent on the interior, as opposed to getting him out at tackle where he is certainly, I would say, more than serviceable. I would call him an above-average tackle. Doesn't mean he's an all-pro. Doesn't mean he's a future Hall of Famer. He's not necessarily one of these guys that you look at and say, that's the cornerstone of our franchise, but they're paying him like a cornerstone franchise guy. And now he's playing one of the most valuable positions in sports because they just aren't deep enough there for him not to play it. Well, when you have that move, which was due in part to Vidarian Lowe getting banged up, and so he has to move out of left tackle, and Chuks Okorafor has to move from right tackle to left tackle. That doesn't work out great for him. Then Mike Onwenu has to move from right guard to right tackle. Are you following along with me? Well, then who plays right guard? Who fills in for Mike Onwenu at right guard? It's Layden Robinson. And this man was a badass in Week 1. And I had a fantastic time talking to Layden Robinson about his demeanor, his play style, about Coach Steve Addazio. Remember Steve Addazio, former head coach of the Boston College Eagles from 2013 to 2019. He's now the offensive line coach at, you guessed it, Texas A&M. And he made a big impact on one Layden Robinson. So we talk about Coach Dawes, as Robinson references. We talk about why he plays the way he does and how he's been able to contribute as early as he has. You're also going to hear from David Andrews, obviously veteran teammate right alongside him, and what he's thought of Layden Robinson very early in Robinson's career. And you're going to hear from Davon Godchaux, who's had an opportunity to go against Robinson on the other side of the line of scrimmage and had an opportunity to watch up close and personal this player develop over a very brief period of time. But you're going to hear a very impressed Davon Godchaux, veteran defensive lineman, seen a lot of good guards over the years. And I really think you're going to be encouraged by what you hear from Godchaux as it relates to Robinson and his potential. But first, before we get to his teammates, let's hear from Layden Robinson himself. I think you're really going to enjoy this conversation. Let's get to it right now. All right, we got Layden Robinson right here. Layden, have to ask you a little bit about your performance on Sunday, week 1 against the Bengals, your first professional game. You get out there. What are the emotions like when you set foot, on an NFL field, a regular season game for the first time?
The emotions was like, just thank you, God. And that was my emotions, that I'm here and I thank you. That was all my emotions. I made sure I got on the field, took my knee, prayed, said my prayer, and just got ready to play football.
I'm curious, when you are out there and you're in the moment, just a few stalls down from you is David Andrews. How much are you leaning on a guy like that, especially given that you're playing right next to him, snap after snap? Are there a lot of questions thrown his way in the huddle or even at the line of scrimmage, or what's the communication like between you two?
Well, all the questions come from in practice. Those are where we get everything done. We have to get everything done in practice, so in the game we can just flow fast and play freely how we want to play. But he is very communicative and are we going to do this? How are we going to do that? Making sure that we get the checks, get the plays, get the mics. Because that's his job. He's a great center, and he always makes sure it's in line up front that we know what we're doing. But every question that we have always comes in practice, and he makes sure I'm always good and make sure I understand everything.
What's the studying like for you then to make sure that you don't have to be, down in your stance next to him in the moment saying, what do I got here? Or who do I have? How much work do you have to put in, not just on the practice field, but maybe it's at home, maybe it's here in the facility, to make sure you're on top of your details that way?
You just got to make sure you go back and look at film. First is understanding the concept and make sure that you know what you're doing by going through the script that we have every day. All right, I'm doing this on this play, I'm doing this on this play. Just got to make sure that. But, most of the plays that we run, we already ran a lot. So, we already got a lot of repetition in it. Now it just changed from week to week. All right, how are we going to block it now? So, and once that happens, once you do it in practice, now we go in film and we learn, okay, maybe I could have did this a little better. Or, hey, he wants me to do it like this. It was the right mindset of me thinking, but let's do it like this. It's going to be more effective. So that's all that comes into play with that.
Speed of the game, preseason versus regular season. How different was it? Was it different at all for you?
Oh, yes, it is different. It is very different, the speed of the game, because, now you're going against those true veteran guys that, that sat out, the first couple of weeks, letting the younger guys or the people that, that want to prove themselves to make a team play. So now it's just those guys that are on the field that you've been seeing on TV for a long time, and, they got a high motor. And it's just football, so that's fun.
Finishing blocks, how important is that to you? That was something we saw you do quite a bit. Not only in that regular season game against the Bengals, but in the preseason as well. What's the mindset required to be able to do that on a fairly consistent basis from what we've seen from you thus far?
Well, the mindset from that is just be a dog, because you like that type of play. You gotta love that energy just to play football. This game we played, that's what this energy was built off of. This game was built off of that, playing aggressive and being aggressive. I pride myself on that ever since coming from college, with Coach Dawes. That's what he preached, and, that's what he said, play aggressive, be a finisher. It's going to make you pop out on film. You always want to go 100% on every play, and I'm going to go out swinging every single play, going out 100%, making sure, I'm trying to get that finish block because, that's what football is all about. It's all about having fun and playing aggressive and being an aggressor. And it's even better when you go against another dog, too, because you know that, hey, it's going to be a long day, and then it's going to be about who going to bend and who going to break. My goal is I'm not going to bend a break at all. I'm going to keep going.
Where did that mindset start for you? You mentioned college, but was it even before that at all? Obviously, you end up at the SEC. You're at Texas A&M. I mean, to get to that point, my guess is you had your fair share of pancake blocks leading up to that point. So where did it start for you, and why was that an enjoyable part of the game for you?
Well, it started in high school for me, too. That was a real big deal in high school. That's what led me to being recruited, going to camps and being finishing, too, as well. That made me pop out. But I could just say it just really took a toll in college when, when Coach Dawes came in and when he got the job. That's when I realized that, hey, I do need to be more consistent on my finishes. I need to make sure I'm in shape. I need to make sure that I run to the ball, that I pick my guys up, that I'm near, making sure that I'm a finisher, and that, that because that's going to pop out on tape, and that's what's going to get me noticed. So I got to do what I know how to do best, which is finish, but finish consistently.
You had such a good camp in preseason, but you mentioned the speed of the game's different, the talent level's different, regular season. So when you guys put that ball into the end zone with Ramondre, first touchdown of the season for you, he runs right off of your back, you're able to finish a block there. Mm-hmm. Is that the moment, or was there another where you said, okay, I can do this, I belong here?
Well, to be honest, though, that moment for me came in camp. just going against these guys and these great D linemen, all the time. Like, people don't know you're supposed to go against the best guys in practice, and that's what you do every single day. I'm going against these great defensive linemen here, and they, going against them and just having battles going back and forth with them, that gave me my confidence. And now me just going on the field, that's when all of that come into play. Like, the guys that I went against in practice, they depended on me. My guys beside me, they depended on me. And so that all just started from practice. Everything starts from practice. Harder practices make the game easier.
How freeing is it as an offensive lineman to understand you have a coaching staff that says, we want to run the ball? And we're telling the whole world, we want to run the ball. We don't care who knows it. How much do you appreciate that, playing the position you play?
I mean, that feels good because at the end of the day, the game is won in the trenches. You always have to set the tone, and that's the name of the game. You have to set the tone, and that's what running the ball. Like, I like when Coach said we were going to run the ball, and that is a big deal, and I take pride in that, and our offensive line take pride in that. We're going to run the ball, no matter if anybody knows it or not. That's our job. That's what we have to do. That's what we got paid to be here to do, is to make sure we run the ball and open up lanes for our running backs, and that's our job. And we take pride in that, and we're going to do it.
Set the tone in week 1. I'm sure the goal is something similar in week 2. Layden Robinson, thanks a lot for being with us. Really appreciate Layden spending some time with us right before he goes out to practice on Wednesday. The situation's been a little bit different in the Patriots locker room. It's been great, candidly, for us as reporters to be able to go in there as they get ready for practice. Now, the reasons for that are because everyone's there. Over the last few years, we've been in the locker room much later in the day. A lot of players actually had already gone home by the time we'd been allowed in the locker room. And so to have them in that moment as they're preparing for practice, again, makes it easier for us because they are more accessible. It makes it harder on the players, though. And I have talked to players about this, and most of them, all of them, in my experience, at least this year, have been great. They don't mind. They've been accommodating. It's a much looser feel in that locker room. So a rookie like Layden Robinson, whereas in years past, might have been a little petrified to say anything of substance, can feel like he can have a conversation not only with me, but with a couple of other media people over the course of getting ready for the only fully padded practice of the week, which can be really physical, which can be a real grind, mentally and physically. And so I just wanted to point that out, and I just wanted to say, again, especially for a guy in his first year who, yes, had a good game, but is still continuing to try to carve out a role and make a reputation for himself, we appreciate Layden Robinson before he goes out to practice, before he has to block guys like Devon Godshaw and Dietrich Wise and Keon White, that he's willing to spend some time with us and share a little bit of his story with us, I thought was fantastic. But I teased a little bit earlier that David Andrews had some really nice things to say about Layden Robinson, that Devon Godshaw had some really nice things to say about Layden Robinson. And that was not long after Gerard Mayo had some really nice things to say about Layden Robinson right after the Patriots win in Cincinnati. Not right after, but less than 24 hours after. On Monday morning on a Zoom call, he was asked about Robinson. He was asked about that touchdown from Ramondre Stevenson where Robinson has B.J. Hill, and he's got him in this vice grip, and he doesn't initially move him all that much off the line of scrimmage, but he's also not allowing Hill to make the play on Stevenson. You got a great block from David Andrews on that play as well. And at the end of the play, of course, Layden Robinson, pancake special on an NFL defensive tackle in the first half of his first game as a professional. Here's what Gerard Mayo had to say about Layden Robinson. He said, there was a point in time during training camp where not only myself, but I think the other coaches saw it. We said, Layden Robinson has an opportunity to be a special player in this league. He's tough. He'll move guys off the line of scrimmage. He can do it all. His overall effort and mentality is something that, when you think about changing a culture, he's definitely one of these guys that fits into that box. He did a great job. Now, in saying that, it's only one game. We'll see how that continues to progress going forward. But you could see, and you can hear from Gerard Mayo there, just how critical having a rookie at that position play the way he plays. Play well for sure, that matters. But the way he plays, with an obvious toughness and an obvious emphasis of his own on physicality and finishing blocks, that's the kind of thing that can resonate in a developing locker room, let's put it that way, under rookie head coach Gerard Mayo, under rookie personnel chief Elliott Wolf. It's not a young locker room in every corner of the locker room, you got guys like Jacoby Brissett and Hunter Henry and Jabril Peppers and Jawan Bentley and Dietrich Wise and all the captains, David Andrews. But as you're trying to mold something and build something, it is really critical not to just have the veteran guys be the flag bearers when it comes to carrying the coach's message. If you can have some other younger guys, players who have proven themselves able to excel at this level, who can do some of those same things and play the way the coaching staff really wants these players to play with that style, that to me matters. And so in the nascent stage of Gerard Mayo's tenure here, having somebody like Robinson on the offensive side in the trenches for a run-first team, that is huge. Let's hear from David Andrews on Layden Robinson, and then we're immediately going to follow up Andrews' clip with Devon Godshaw, and you're going to hear what he has to say about his rookie teammate.
He's a really tough guy. He wants to get it right. Very coachable in that sense. Like, you tell him something, he's going to try to do it to the best of his ability. And when you're talking to a young guy, you don't want him to know that or think they have all the answers. And, they don't. We've all been there. And sometimes it's, frustrating, but at the same time, he just does such a great job of trying to soak up all the information he can, and trying to correct things he needs to correct and move forward. I've really enjoyed getting to work with him and think he's done a great job.
I told them when they first got him, I said he's going to be a good player. Of course, coming from the SEC. When we first got him, I just knew like the fight, like the dog in him. I like to say it. I knew he was going to be a good player, and it doesn't surprise me what he's doing on Sunday. And now he has to know that he's not a rookie anymore, because we expect that each and every game now. Like what you did on Sunday, mauling guys to the ground, pancaking guys. I know for sure I expect that I'm sure Gerard expect that each and every game. So, him, 70, we don't expect, after the first game you guys played, got a lot of snaps. We don't expect you guys to be rookies anymore. It's time for you guys to take the next step. So I'm excited for him.
All right, so that's the book for now on Layden Robinson. You know what we do here on the Next Pats podcast? We're constantly talking about the younger players, first, second-year guys especially. And so we couldn't let a week go by after that performance from Layden Robinson and not discuss the guy who has been the most impactful rookie on the team to this point. Now, can they get a little bit more out of a second-year player this coming week, in week 2, against the Seattle Seahawks? That, to me, is one of the keys to the game. Let's go through 5 keys. This is the blueprint, the 5-point plan, if you will, to the Patriots being able to maintain this momentum and start their season 2-0. And I'm starting the blueprint here with Pop Douglas. They need to activate Pop Douglas. 2 catches, not enough. 3 targets in week 1 for Pop Douglas, not enough. 121 yards passing for the Patriots in week 1. Most weeks, not going to be enough. And if the Patriots want to be able to puncture this Seahawks defense time and again in a way that is going to lead to a winning outcome, Pop Douglas is going to have to be more productive. The Seahawks defense is, to me, after just 1 week, I think it's miles better than the Bengals. And the reason I say that is because you look at the premium positions. What they have at corner in Devin Witherspoon, who we talked about quite a bit on this podcast a couple of years ago, you'll remember, or basically a little bit over a year ago, where we were talking about players the Patriots may target in the first round. They end up drafting Christian Gonzalez that year. But the first corner taken in that draft out of Illinois was Devin Witherspoon. This guy will rip your face off as a tackler. He is aggressive. He is physical. Talk about a tone setter. He reminded me a little bit of the way we think about Jabril Peppers at the safety position. He's a cover corner who brings some of those same qualities, which I love. And obviously the Seahawks loved it too because they took him in the top 10. Then on the other side, you have Tariq Woolen, who is long and athletic and built more like one of these traditional Seahawks corners when it was the old Pete Carroll style defense. Now you've got Mike McDonald there, and things are a little bit different. It's more of a Ravens style defense, but Woolen's size and athleticism still plays in that scheme. And so to me, at corner, they are vastly superior than what the Bengals were able to offer up. And then up front with their pass rush, I don't think they have anyone who's quite as good as Trey Hendrickson, but as a unit, to me, they are much more imposing. Boye Mafe, to me, is going to end up as one of the premier young pass rushers in football by the end of this season. Bold prediction. Not that bold. because he had 9 pressures in week 1, and it looked like dude was shot out of a cannon consistently. 6'4", 260 pounds, ran a 4.5 in the 40, well over the 90th percentile, over the 90th percentile when it comes to his vertical jump. He is in a league loaded with freaky undersized pass rushers. To me, he is edging on elite when it comes to the physical skill set. Think about the highest of the high end at that position. Guys like Myles Garrett, Nick Bosa. You're talking about 6'4", 260 plus pounds that can move, that can scoot. There just aren't that many of them. The Seahawks might have found one in Boye Mafe. Out of Minnesota, was raw coming out. He's not the longest guy in the world, but he plays with all kinds of energy and effort, and you pair that with the freaky athleticism, you get games like the one he had the other day in Denver where they couldn't block him. They just could not block him. On the other side, they get Derek Hall, 6'3", 250. So, okay, a little bit smaller, but, man, a lot of speed, 4.5, 540 at the combine a couple years ago. This guy's out of Auburn. 2023, broad jump of 10 feet 7. That's 92nd percentile. So they have some freaks on the edge. And then they have Leonard Williams, who's one of the highest paid defensive tackles in football, right there in the middle, who can still get after it. They just added Byron Murphy in the first round, so even more talent there for that front. And so the pass rush to me is going to be a menace for the New England Patriots, because when you add that talent to the scheme that McDonald is running, with all of these different players able to align at the line of scrimmage, there were snaps in that game against Denver, just rewatched it yesterday, where they had 4 on the line and they rushed 4, 4 on the line and they rush 5 or 6. There are times where there are 5 or 6 on the line and they'll only rush 4, or they'll rush all 6. There were snaps where they had 7 guys at the line of scrimmage. It's really similar to what the Patriots do and have done to some degree for a long time under Bill Belichick. We talked about Trey Flowers before on this podcast, and I talked about it recently in the Patriots Talk podcast when we were talking about Keon White. Keon White really, what I've been told, a more explosive version of Trey Flowers. So you can put him right on the nose the way the Patriots used to do with Flowers, and then have 5 or 6 guys just walking around behind him, unsure of what they're going to do if you're an opposing offensive lineman or an opposing quarterback. Are they rushing? Are they dropping into coverage? Who's got the back? Who am I supposed to pick up if I'm hot? Once you start playing those head games, again, with quarterbacks or with their pass protectors, that's when you can really start to generate consistent success over time, especially in critical situations on third down. The Seahawks look like they can already do that. With McDonald running the controls and with the talent that they have, it could be a vicious combination. And the reason I bring all of that up is because you are going to have someone, to get back to the blueprint here, to throw the ball quickly to. The Patriots allowed over 40% of their dropbacks to be pressured in week 1 against the Bengals, against a more talented unit with more diverse pass rushing concepts. If you play similarly to the way you did in Cincinnati, to me that pressure number could get up closer to 50. And while Jacoby Brissett was, I thought, dynamite under pressure the other day, whether it was completing passes with people on him or people bearing down on him, or his ability to break through the line of scrimmage and pick up critical yardage with his legs, I just think the Seahawks have too many athletes. They have too many talented players for that to work and work consistently. You're really living on the edge playing that way, in my opinion. And if it happens again, it's not going to go the same way. And even if it goes the same way, that was not an incredibly productive performance, that's putting it nicely, for the Patriots pass game. So how do they handle it? They have to have quick and easy answers. They have to, in my opinion, throw to the middle of the field to stay away from those 2 dynamic corners. That means Pop Douglas. Pop Douglas, Pop Douglas, Pop Douglas, Pop Douglas. You got to target him, I would say, at least twice as much as you did in Cincinnati, if not more. Okay? So the target numbers need to go up. Activate Pop Douglas. That's key number 1. Key number 2, screen him to death. Because as talented and as aggressive and as fast as this front is, they look so aggressive that you might be able to take advantage of it. And I'm digging back into something that they told us during the summer, which was they want to be, Alex Van Pelt was very upfront about this, they want to be the best screen team in football. They hardly threw any screens the other day in Cincinnati. You know those are loaded, or they can be. They have the ability to load onto Alex Van Pelt's call sheet a number of different types of screens. So after you've already established the run to a degree, right, in week one, where Seattle understands this is what you want to do, it's what you told the Bengals you were going to do, and you did it anyway, and you had a lot of success, especially late in the game. Caden Wallace on the field. You are announcing to the world your intentions, and you're still able to have success on the ground. You know the Seahawks are going to be geared up to stop the run. So that should help your play-action passing game, although I don't know how heavily you want to lean on that because generally speaking, those under-center shot plays with the pass game can take a while to develop, and it just asks a lot of your offensive line to be able to hold up in pass protection for 2.5, 3.5, maybe even a little bit longer seconds. And again, that to me is a little bit of a losing battle. How can you get the ball out of your hand a little bit quickly while also encouraging the Seahawks to get up the field and defend the run? Screen them. Screen them to death. So whether it's Ramondre Stevenson, who we know is a capable receiver, or Antonio Gibson, who I actually thought looked good in relatively limited action in Cincinnati, use those screens to your advantage. You practiced them all the time, every day this summer. It's time to break them out because they didn't in week one. They're going to need them in week two. Point number 3, double Boye Mafe on third down. That is a non-starter to me, having Boye Mafe matched one-on-one with a tackle on either side, quite frankly, but especially on the left side, where I would expect Vidarian Lowe to be back. Chukwuekorfor, from what we've seen in practice, has been with the backups, and your line has been Lowe at left tackle, Michael Jordan at left guard, David Andrews at center, Layden Robinson at right guard, Mike Owenu at right tackle. Give Vidarian Lowe some help. Guy's got a great attitude. He's got a great demeanor about him. From talking to him after the game, during the week, he is not at all down about his performance. He wasn't even sure how much he was going to play in that game in Cincinnati. And he did have solid reps against Trey Hendrickson at times. But there was also plenty of pressure off that side as well. And that's just a physical matchup when it comes to the explosiveness and the athleticism that I don't love for the Patriots. So you've got to figure that out. Are you going to chip him with a back? Are you going to leave Austin Hooper or Hunter Henry in there at tight end to at least give Boye Mafe a little bit of presence to slow him down, just that extra beat so you can get the football out of your hand quickly if you're Jacoby Brissett? However you do it, you have to give extra eyes and extra hands to Boye Mafe on third down to make sure he doesn't ruin the game for you, because I think he's turning into that type of player. On the defensive side, 2 keys to finish off our blueprint. Trust your man coverage. Trust your man coverage. I'm going to write about this before the game, late in the week here. But every week we're trying to do something where we look at the opponent and we project moving forward how the Patriots, as they build, right? They are still in a building phase. They are still trying to figure out how they can get their team to where they want it to be, both from a roster standpoint and from a coaching and a schematic standpoint. So in week 1, we looked at the Bengals and how Zach Taylor has been willing to not overhaul, but tweak the Bengals offense from year to year in order to keep Joe Burrow comfortable. He wants to be in the shotgun like all the time, while also changing things up to a degree in order to take advantage of what defenses are showing them year over year. So one year it's shotgun shots deep down the field, and they're the most explosive offense in football in 2021. The next year, a lot of too high coverages. They have to adjust. They start throwing short. It sounds easy. It sounds simple. And it is. It's not rocket science. Let's not make it out to be something that it's not. But they were willing to tweak their approach in a variety of different ways where they end up, again, having an extremely productive offense by the end of 2022. Last year, they get banged up. And I gave Zach Taylor credit last year, and I did in the piece last week, for going under center more, right? You get Joe Burrow out because of injury. You got to back up in. You don't just stick with what Joe Burrow wants to do. You try to pull different levers offensively to be able to squeeze every last drop out of what you do have personnel-wise offensively. And listen, it was a weird game for the Bengals. They got T. Higgins out. They got Jamar Chase complaining about a contract. It was a mess, quite frankly. Maybe once they get their feet under them, we will see a little bit more under center from Joe Burrow and a little bit more play action in that regard, the way they were able to use it last year with him out. But that's the kind of piece that we want to write moving forward just about every single week, because we are very obviously in that building phase for the Patriots. So how do we attack it this week with the Seahawks on the docket? The one thing that I have really liked, and I can tell you Patriots defensive backs really find it a challenge, is how they've built their receiver room. You've heard the cliche of you want to build your weaponry almost in the passing game like a basketball team. You have to have different roles. You have to have different body types, because with the best offensive schemes, you have a variety of different positions within that one position group. And we've seen it with the Patriots over the years. And I think they're building toward that with Pop Douglas as the obvious slot, Jalen Polk as somebody who can do a little bit of everything. They're clearly still looking for that big play, take the top off type of receiving threat by offering guys like Brandon Ayuk and Calvin Ridley lots of money. So they're still in pursuit of that. The Seahawks have already kind of executed it. With DK Metcalf on the outside, that's your obvious big body, big play threat, contested catch guy down the boundary in the red zone, can do a little bit of everything. He's not going to change directions all that well. He is like a high performance boat in that way. He's not going to be able to turn on a dime the way Pop Douglas can, but what he does is really valuable. And they have two other guys who can do that sort of stuff, who can run those short to intermediate routes. They've got the savvy veteran who's undersized in Tyler Lockett. You could send him down the field if you wanted to, but at this stage of his career, he's probably going to do some different things. And then you have Jackson Smith and Jigba, who we thought might be a Patriots target a couple of drafts ago, but really excellent change of direction skill combined with some size there, which is really hard to find paired together. And so while he might not be the fastest guy when it comes to top-end speed, he can do a lot for their passing game too. That is all a long way of saying, yes, they have challenging matchups at the receiver spot. And yes, most weeks for them, they're going to be able to leverage that versatility within their receiver room to take advantage of opposing defenses. I don't think they're going to be able to do it this week. So point number 4 on the blueprint of beating the Seahawks is trust your man coverage. Patriots have long loved to play man coverage with Gerard Mayo at the helm of this defense. Even before that, with Bill Belichick, Brian Flores, they're a little bit more zone heavy at times with Matt Patricia. Now we're going in the Wayback Machine. But this is a team that's going to play a lot of man this year, I believe. We'll see. It wasn't all man the other day. It was about a 60-40 split, actually, zone over man. But when you break it down in critical situations, what are they doing? They've got a lot of guys who are excellent in man-to-man coverage, and I think that's what they're going to lean on moving forward. Trust it this week. Christian Gonzalez on DK Metcalf, Jonathan Jones on Tyler Lockett, Marcus Jones on Jackson Smith and Jigba. The matchups are very easily discernible, in my opinion. And you should trust those guys, because I like the Patriots across the board. They won't all get shut out, the Seahawks receivers. No, they're too good. They're excellent. I think Geno Smith is a little bit underrated, although he did not look very good last week. But to me, you trust your man coverage, because that's why you have those guys. That's why you built your corner room the way you've built it. So you can play man, and then you can get creative with the front and try to take advantage of what the Seahawks have on their offensive line, which has some issues as well, which leads us to point number 5. Look at that transition. Crush rush on Geno Smith. You do want to keep him in the pocket, okay? 34-yard touchdown run last week. Don't allow them explosive plays that are off script. You can't do it. You have to be disciplined in your rush, and I think the Patriots will be. The spot where I think they should be most focused, and maybe this is where we should see the most of Keon White, who to me is their most physically gifted pass rusher. Get him on right tackle. Because George Fant was their backup right tackle to start the season. He had to start the season because of injury. He gets injured early in that week 1 game. Now they're on their 3rd right tackle, Stone Forsythe out of Florida. And it did not go well for old Stone in week 1. If that's the matchup this week, and we'll see what Fant's availability is like, We also have to see what Kenneth Walker's availability is like. Patriots love themselves some Kenneth Walker in terms of they respect the hell out of that guy at the running back position. They think he can do a lot of very exciting things and explosive things for their offense. But as the practice week goes on here, is Walker playing? That's a huge deal. Is Fant playing? That, to me, is a big deal for the Patriots in terms of how their pass rush gets deployed. But whoever's over there, crush rush. We've talked about this on the podcast before. Nothing fancy, right? You're not getting up the field. You're not trying to swim by these guys and run the hoop, and take the long way to the quarterback. You're going right through the chest of whoever your blocker happens to be, and you're crushing the pocket around the quarterback. You're trying to smother the quarterback. You're trying to choke him in the well, right behind center. Keep him there. Force him to diagnose, get rid of the football quickly, find receivers quickly against some really good coverage players on the back end. And as that space closes in around him, then you go for the football. Then you go for the sack. But the last thing you want is for him to break the pocket while you're in man coverage. Now all of a sudden he's running up the field while Christian Gonzalez and Jonathan Jones' backs are turned because they're running down the field with their respective assignments. So play man, that's great. But if you're going to do that, you got to make sure you keep Geno Smith in the pocket. There's your 5-point plan for the Patriots to win this game against the Seattle Seahawks and start 2-0. Will they do it? I think they will. I feel as though I have to pick the Patriots this week, not just because they won week 1, but because this has been a game, I think, for a lot of us that follow this team, that as soon as the schedule came out, we said, okay, that's a possible win right there, week 2 at home against the Seahawks team that is probably more talented than the Patriots, but not great. It's not a great Seahawks team. Rookie head coach, and yes, he looked great in week 1. We'll see how it looks in week 2. The same way we will with Gerard Mayo, right? So I think this is going to be a close game. It's going to be a low-scoring game. If you love defensive football, you're going to love this game. If you love offensive football, apologies in advance. Patriots win 13-12. That's it for the Next Pats podcast. I'm Phil Perry. Thanks so much for listening, everybody. If you could, please, please, please rate, comment, subscribe. Leave a comment on YouTube. If you're watching on YouTube, love the YouTube community. I'm in there. I'm throwing in comments. I'm responding to comments. People don't think I'm me because my username is a little bit wonky on there. There's a few extra random numbers on the end of my name. It's me. Me. Okay? So let's have a conversation over on YouTube. We appreciate everybody over there. We appreciate all of our listeners, all of our viewers, wherever you're catching this. Keep an eye out for next week's Next Pats podcast. Enjoy the game. We'll talk to you very soon.